very much. Are you familiar with the names Eric Garner, Walter Scott, Tamir Rice? My question is, as I hold up the poster dealing with the report under your jurisdiction, Black Identity Extremists, it is interesting to me that you are opposing individuals who are opposing lethal force, similar to the attack on Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King on COINTELPRO, but there seems to be no report dealing with the Tiki Torch Parade in Charlottesville chanting, "Jews will not replace us." Why is there an attack on black activists versus any reports dealing with the alt-right and the white nationalists? Can you answer that question quickly?
I'm not aware.
Are you planning on investigating that?
When was that report completed?
In August of 2017.
I'm not aware. I have not studied that report.
I ask you to because it's an attack on individuals who are simply trying to petition the government in the redress of grievances. Let me move.
And I heard a loud voice saying in heaven, "Now is come salvation and strength and the kingdom of our God and the power of his Christ. For the accuser of our brethren is cast down, which accused them before our God day and night."
Now make no mistake, the so-called Negro has been a target from day one. Slavery, lynchings, bombings, shot unarmed by officers who were sworn to protect the general public. And when we look at the judicial system and see the disproportionate rate of minorities being arrested and convicted for the same crimes as their white counterparts. Now, when we look at the officers who are sworn to protect the general public, we can link them to white supremacist organizations.
Thus saith the Lord my God, feed the flock of the slaughter, whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, Blessed be the Lord, for I am rich. And their own shepherds pity them not.
If you do remember me, we've had a couple of conversations about Black Identity Extremists. The answers I'm in search of is that if you have identified who drafted the report, and way more important than the individual, the department, and what was the basis for the report. And I'd like to ask both of you to respond to that.
You're talking specifically about the report regarding Black Identity Extremism?
Black Identity Extremists likely motivated to target law enforcement officers.
And so as to who drafted it, I don't have that information with me, certainly. I thought that the meeting that I had with you all and your colleagues, I think it was about 2 hours, I thought was very constructive. I appreciate hearing your concerns. I hope you understood at least how we went about what we did. It all happened before I arrived.
Yes.
That conversation has, I can tell you, prompted us to go back and take a very hard look at how we are bucketing the different categories of domestic terrorism. And I think it's been a useful learning experience for us, and I expect we will see some changes in how we do things going forward.
Thank you.
I believe you asked me questions about this in December when I was here, and I have no further knowledge of it beyond what Director Ray has, but I do want to assure you that based upon what I've seen the FBI during my tenure there, when they use the term extremist, the FBI is focused on violence and violations of the law, and not focused on people who are exercising their First Amendment rights.
Would you be familiar with a case in Dallas where there was a young man who, put some, in my opinion, crazy stuff on his Facebook page, but had no history of violence and wound up being incarcerated for several months, and the Black Identity Extremist document was the basis in which he was arrested. Are either of you familiar with that case?
I'm not.
No? How about you?
I'm not familiar with it, and the FBI's report would not be the basis for prosecuting or arresting.
Not prosecuting, it was the basis from which they labeled him that. And
not familiar with it.
They have taken crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones.
Mike German is joining us from Washington, D.C., National Security Policy Council for the American Civil Liberties Union. He was an FBI agent specializing in domestic counterterrorism for many years. Mike, talk about your assessment of this widening dragnet and its consequences.
Well, I think part of the problem is sort of the scope of this investigation, the aggressive tactics that are being used when there isn't any public evidence to suggest these people pose a threat. In fact, the FBI spokesman said immediately after the raids that there wasn't a threat to the community. So it sort of leads to a question of why there is this nationwide, early morning raids, as if these are mafia groups, when it's clear from the materials that are being seized, the materials that are being requested in the search warrant returns that are public, that a lot of this is associational information that's being requested: address books, computer records, literature and advocacy materials, First Amendment sort of materials. So this creates a huge chill beyond these activists or their associates to the entire advocacy community, where, again, these people, as already stated, have long-standing advocacy histories, are organizers, know a lot of people in the community. So it creates a chill throughout, and it damages our democracy because people start to be afraid of participating in the political process, and that really is a huge problem beyond the scope of just the individuals involved in this case. And the fact that the FBI is doing this without and using terms like terrorism to describe these individuals creates a huge chilling effect that we really have to be concerned about.